You know him, syndicated radio talk show host, one of your favorites, I know, Michael Savage. He's the author of the new Stop Mass Hysteria, America's Insanity, from the Salem witch trials to the Trump witch hunt. Michael Savage, thanks for joining us today. Michael, tell us about the new book. We're so excited for you.
Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. After what we just went through with Kavanaugh, could there be a better book coming out at this time? I mean, you talk about mass hysteria. I have not seen anything like this historically since, I would say, the Dreyfus affair in France, where a Jewish French military officer was unfairly accused of being a traitor by French anti-Semites. They planted evidence that was not real. Sound like Dr. Fraud, doesn't it? Against Kavanaugh. And he was sent to Devil's Island. You may remember the movie with Dustin Hoffman, the Devil's Island movie, Escape from Devil, whatever it was. The fact of the matter is it took 100 years to exonerate Dreyfus and prove he was never a spy for Germany. What they just did to Kavanaugh is exactly akin to what they did to Louis Dreyfus in France, the framing. But this was a public execution orchestrated by Dianne Feinstein and her pal of gangsters for the whole world to see. And the only question that we have today is, will this have an effect on the midterm elections? Meaning, will enough women who came out for Trump realize, whether they're Republican or Democrat or independent, they have sons, brothers, husbands, uncles. There are males in families. Even feminists have males in their families. Would you believe that? They weren't made in test tubes? Well, except in San Francisco, pardon me. Their father was a turkey baster in San Francisco, so I guess it doesn't apply here. In all seriousness, though, if we don't stop the guillotine of hatred being dropped by the left, their own heads are going to be cut off next. The guillotine is a very thirsty instrument. And as the French Revolution taught the world, after they killed all the counter-revolutionaries, they didn't stop killing. Then the revolutionaries turned on each other for a power struggle. And this is what went on in Castro's Cuba, Pol Pot's Cambodia, Mao's China, the Bolshevik Revolution. And what we're seeing now in America is exactly akin, in my opinion, to what went on in all these revolutions in the early days. And so Kavanaugh was a symbol of everything they hate. And what is it that they hate, the left? Let's check off the boxes together. He's a male, check. He's white, check. He's heterosexual, count 3. He's married, count 4. Oh, wait, he's also a Republican, count 5. So unless the person is the opposite of that, the left will destroy them politically. They've gone insane.
Right, but Michael, here's the part I don't understand. My background, you may know, is in mental health and psychology. And the question I get from audiences when I speak around the country is, why are Americans so easily duped into believing unbelievable things? We all know it's the big lies that Americans tend to believe. Why?
Because the media is 99% controlled by the radical left. How many Newsmax TVs are there? How many Newsmax websites are there? It's infinitesimal, small. Look at all the major media. They're all left-wing, and they're all trying to appease to the lowest common denominator amongst their listenership. You know, something occurred to me in writing Mass Hysteria. There's a thing called groupthink, which we're all familiar with. People tend to repeat what they hear others are saying in order to be approved by the group. And it's very hard to be an outlier. Let's say you live in a liberal community. You go to a liberal college, right? You can't say that you approve of Columbus Day. You'll be castigated. And so you all say, no, Columbus was a terrible person. I went in a bar last night to have a beer in a little town here in Northern California. I just wanted to be alone. Had my beers. Bartender looked typical millennial, early 30s kind of guy, you know, straw hat behind the bar. And he started to talk to me. Didn't know me, obviously. He said, well, I said, it's slow tonight. He said, well, it's a holiday weekend, you know, Columbus Day, but I don't celebrate it. So I said, why not? He said, well, I don't like what he did. I said, well, you wouldn't be here if Columbus hadn't have done what he did. He said, I guess you're right. I wouldn't be here. I said, do you have any children? He said, I have a 7-year-old. He said, I guess my child wouldn't be. And now here was a guy with only one statement from me without anger. He came to realize that Columbus discovered America. So now you want to wipe out this great, amazing sea voyage of discovery because it's not politically attuned with the times. But the main thing I said to him was, can you name one country on earth that was not founded in blood and conquest? And he said, no. I said, so why single out our own country as being worse than the others? That was the point I'm trying to make. Yep. Why have we vilified our own nation as being worse than any nation on earth? Mm-hmm. And it's all connected to mass hysteria and groupthink, which I carefully kind of uncouple here in my book, Stop Mass Hysteria. And I want to say one thing to go into the book for 1 minute. We don't have much time, and I know you people are great in having me on. I've written political books, and they've done very well. In this book, I try to bridge politics with history, and I found out that a little history goes a long way, such as saying to this bartender, can you name one country on earth that was not founded in blood and conquest? And it's instantaneous, the answer. Say, no, I really can't. And in doing that, by learning a few things, you can probably turn arguments with rational people. Now, that's a big caveat, rational people.
Right.
Yeah, but there are some, and that's a great point.
There are some.
Yeah.
You know, Michael, let me ask you. So you engage with your audience. What are your callers telling you about the deep divide between themselves? Your callers, if they're conservative, what are they telling you about that divide between themselves and their neighbors who might be ideologically opposed to them?
You can't see. Here's the problem. I think the battle lines are drawn. As I have said before, and unfortunately I see happening. Years ago, I wrote a book called Stop the Coming Civil War. Yep. Now this is becoming sort of a common thing, like, oh, we're having another civil war, you know. I think the battle lines are drawn. The Mason-Dixon line is very clear. People are on both sides. Families are divided, just like before the Civil War. And we're waiting for Fort Sumter. And I think Dianne Feinstein was a living embodiment of a Fort Sumter with lipstick. I've never seen anything like a woman trying to set a nation on fire as what she did to this man.
Yeah.
So,
but
I mean, you're asking what you're saying.
Here's the thing,
I don't know what we could say to them.
Here's the thing, though, that I just wanted to ask you, because unless they listen to your show, kids don't even get civics in the 4th grade anymore. They don't know history. So how do you have that conversation?
It's a big problem. The history's been warped into everything white is bad, everything bad, everything American is bad, because the radicals took over the educational system a long time ago. Common Core is still in most of the school systems. Trump was supposed to eliminate it under Education Secretary DeVos. It's still there. You know, there's a lot of issues here that we can go into. My point in writing Stop Mass Hysteria is to try to give people pieces of history that they can use as sound bites to try to get a rational discussion going in their own family with people who disagree with them, who don't even know the history of the country.
Yeah. You know, Michael.
So, I mean, you're asking a big question. What do they think? I don't know. What the opposition thinks, that America is the worst place on earth and that anyone white is an evil racist. How did this happen? How did this happen that we reached the point that a person like a Palestinian terrorist, Linda Sarsour, in my opinion, a Palestinian terrorist, can lead a women's march and call a Susan Collins a white supremacist because of her vote? How have we reached this point that anyone of that low caliber would be taken seriously by the media?
Yeah, no, Michael, it's a great point. Speaking of hysteria, and it goes to the part of the title of your book about the witch hunt, let's talk about the current witch hunt, the Russia collusion probe, in quotes, led by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Now, this is very chilling to me and to Gina, as people who have worked on political campaigns, engaged in campaign strategies. So now Mueller's team, Michael, is reportedly investigating Republican researcher Peter Smith. Smith raised about $100,000 to find Hillary Clinton's emails. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Mueller is interested in Smith because he told people that he tried to recruit, that he was connected to several Trump campaign officials, including guys like Steve Bannon and General Michael Flynn. So Smith was able to raise $100,000 from 4 investors on top of the $50,000 he himself put in. To me, Michael, this is chilling, because this looks like Mueller's attempt to criminalize standard old campaign strategies, but even worse, First Amendment protected political donations and opposition research because the wrong guy won the election. I mean, is this not the definition of hysteria?
Well, look where Mueller went. First, he started with the Russia collusion, which fell apart on him. So he arrested people who did commit crimes unrelated to Trump. And now he's going after campaign individuals for things they did that, as you say, are legal. But he's dropped the Russia collusion investigation,
right,
which, let us not forget, was his original mandate. In other words, there was a ball field with perimeters on it, and the perimeters were Russia collusion. Well, now he's branched into anything he wants to, condemning anyone he wants. He's now a law unto himself. And I believe it's long overdue that Trump fire Mueller, frankly. Mueller has greatly exceeded the mandate that he was given. This is the kind of persecution that destroys a nation. So to answer your question, of course he's violating the man's civil rights.
Yeah.
But where will he stop? It's like the guillotine. Who's next?
Yeah.
Will he now arrest somebody on Fox News who had Donald Trump on his show too many times? Is that the next thing? Say that's collusion between the media and Donald Trump. Is that now a crime under Robert Mueller?
Yeah.
It sure seems that way, Michael.
Michael, one last question I want to ask you. And we only have like 30 seconds remaining, but I really want to get to this because I think it is so significant. The role of the internet in the division today and how to bridge that gap.
Oh, well, I'm on Twitter and Facebook. I have to watch my back every step of the way and have to carefully phrase what I phrase because they could take me down any minute. Long overdue. We have a Federal Communications Commission, don't we, that supposedly overlooks TV, radio stuff, right, FCC? Why don't we have the equivalent? Why don't we just roll in the social media outlets into the FCC and make them answer to them? There needs to be some constraints on them because they're too big to operate as independent businesses. They are, and now a public utility. And in a sense, as a public utility, they need to have some kind of controls on them so they cannot enact the censorship that we're seeing, for example, by Jack Dorsey on Twitter. Takes anyone down he doesn't like. It's time to roll Twitter and Facebook, Google, the others into the Federal Communication System, FCC laws.
Wow.
I think that's a good first step. It's very simple.
From the free market host himself, Michael Savage. Michael, we so much appreciate you being with us today. Best of luck with your book.
Thanks, Michael.
Stop Mass Hysteria.
Stop Mass Hysteria.
That's the book, Stop Mass Hysteria, and I'm glad you wrote about it because I know people will listen to you. Everyone go out and buy his book, and let's make it take over Woodward's book, Fear, at the top of the best-selling list.
Yep.
Thanks so much for being with us, Michael. We appreciate you.